Hi, everybody. Welcome to the clothing call. My name is Melanie. I'm a reseller. I resell on eBay, Poshmark, and I dabble on Depop and Mercari sometimes. I see a lot of familiar faces. Thank you for being here. I'm filling in today for Autumn, and I'm going to go over some stuff today that works well, some stuff that's new, some stuff that I used a long time ago to help me with clothing and learning clothing and styles. And I'm also going to go over some stuff of what not to do because my store is kind of at a slow mode right now. I haven't paid a lot of attention to it. So I'm going to talk about some stuff maybe not to do because that does help in the beginning, or I guess at any time. So I want to share my screen because something that helped me or kind of helped me, and then I considered hiring somebody, but I didn't know how to teach somebody styles and necklines and things that are really, you kind of don't learn unless you do it over and over and over time. So something that I used was Pinterest boards, and I saved a bunch of boards. I organized them so that if I ever hired someone, I could tell them to, I could refer them to the boards and they can hopefully learn stuff and learn item specifics that they may not know. I never actually did that, but I still have the boards and I do use them sometimes, but a lot of it, I've memorized a lot of it over time. So let me figure out here how to share my screen. Bear with me for a moment. I use monitors, so it's really hard to figure out what screen is what.
So
Okay.
right now we see your Zoom screen, and then if you go up to the top, you can pull it down and pick what screen you want to.
Okay. How do I move this board? I'm scared to hit something.
The Zoom bar.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just click it. Just click it somewhere and just move it. It moves pretty easy.
Okay. So that's gone. Okay. So going to go over to Pinterest. So I saved and organized boards a while back. These are not mine, but let me go to mine. Somewhere. Where are they? Oh, logged me out. 1 second. Oh, no. Okay, so here is my Pinterest. Up here are the different boards that I saved. And I use them as reference guides, and I planned to use them to have somebody help either list, or I even considered having them cross list for me, and just so they could have something to reference. So for example, it's good to have a visual because I know we see a lot of stuff of what is boho, what is, old money. And so the good thing with Pinterest is it has a lot of photos that give you a reference. And I'm a visual person, so if I see something, I tend to remember it. And so this is kind of where down here is what I had saved. Wait, there's a lot of sponsored boards in here for some reason too. Okay. Well, these are supposed to be dresses and tops, but there's a lot of sponsored ads in here. Let me see if I can find where it's not sponsored. Okay, so here's the ones that are not sponsored. So it helps kind of know different like sleeve types. Like this one you'll see where it will show you what stuff looks like and have names by it. So this really helps if you're learning for item specifics or learning for keywords. And there's different types of things that you want to know for keywords and for item specifics. Sometimes people are looking for something very specific. So like, for example, I recently was looking for tops that had bell sleeves. Like I wanted that. So knowing what that is and being able to put it in a item specific or in a title if you use it really does help narrow down the results for the buyer. And a lot of this, especially for people who've been selling for a long time, a lot of us know a lot of this. We have it memorized, but this, if you're ever going to have maybe even like your daughter or your son help you list, this could be a good reference guide so they could look at it and they'll be able to put the item specifics and get it correct. And you can organize your boards in different ways. So like I have handbags and I did a fashion education one, which was, for me, I had to learn a lot. Like when I was younger, I used to like clothes and styles and be more stylish. And I got older and I had kids. It kind of went out the window. So I did keep up on it. So a lot of this stuff will help, especially because it's new stuff all the time. Like I heard the other day, I think it was Catherine who was doing a call and she said old money. I had not heard that before. So this is a good way to keep up on the different styles and aesthetics and the trends. Like it really does give you a lot of information. Oops, sorry. So I wanted to go over the boards and that's one thing. Does anybody have any questions? Have they ever used it? Do you have any ideas on how to make it better? And I get it, you don't have to because I tend to listen to calls, so you can sit and listen as well. All right. And the other thing I was gonna go over with clothing, and this might pertain more again to like newer people who are trying to learn brands, trying to learn what to buy. There's so many out there. It's hard to memorize them all. But something I did early on is I started like a list, a Rolodex. And I originally started writing it out because they say, you know, the pen to paper, it helps you remember things. So I would write this list out and it started small, it got larger. So every time I would write it, it'd get longer and I would rewrite it because I wanted to memorize a lot of it. So this was my Rolodex and I wrote it out probably like over 10 times from beginning to end. And it was just an exercise I did to kind of help myself with that. The last time I just did this, I decided to skip the writing and I just put it in a Google Sheets because I didn't want to mess with doing that again. So now I have it in Google Sheets and I don't even know what I have now. Let's see.
I do that for like high-end brands as I listen to YouTube and stuff. And I write them down. And then when I find them, like last year they got a check mark, this year they get highlighted. And it's like a game. And I like to see how much I can get in 1 year.
I like that. I like that you made it a game.
It's a game. And then like people will mention things on the show and tell in the other group and I'll add them. So it's just kind of, I think that's a really good thing to do because then when you see it, even if you don't really remember it, like something about it, you're like, hey, I think that's good.
It's just a trigger. I mean, because that's the thing, because a lot of brands that I have on here, they're not really anything to sell, but still there's some things in that brand that might sell. So it's a trigger to look it up, look up the comps, see what it looks like. And it helps you go faster in the thrift store just to kind of have these in the back of your mind. So I recently put them all in Google Sheets and some of this stuff, like some of it's brands, but some of it is just like materials or some styles and different keywords that I forget that I don't really know. So I put them in there so that I can remind myself pretty often. Now my next step with this is what I'm going to do is I'm going to record myself saying every single one of these. And then when I'm driving to the thrift store, I'm going to listen to it because I drive typically about 20-25 minutes to the thrift store, which is probably long enough for me to just get through at least most of the list, just reading it out so that my brain is fresh, I'm ready to shop, and it saves me time. So that's my next step.
Plus just manifestation.
That's true. Maybe I should make a separate list of all the high-end ones and go through that one first. So that's one thing. I mean, a lot of women's or even men's clothing in general, it's just about time, like saving yourself time because there's so many things, there's so many item specifics. So if you can figure out how to save yourself time somewhere, it really pays off because you're able to get, more items up and find more items, more time for your sourcing. So that's one of my time saving hacks, and also just a way for me to learn brands. And that's like Stasia said, you hear somebody say it, you write it down. I used to listen to YouTubers a lot more, so I would write down everything that I didn't hear, sounded new. And this morning, interesting enough, I was watching a YouTube channel, and I watch them sometimes, not often, but I love the styles and the brands that they bring because they always have something new that I haven't heard. I don't know if you guys watch them. It's Jack Valentine and his partner. So I watch them for that reason. Like they like to go through brands and styles, and I learn a lot. And today I wrote down like 4 new ones. And instead of having to have a paper in my hand like I used to before, I just added it to my Google Sheets and put it in there. So it's just, constantly collecting those because they go in and they go out. They get, they're good. They have good comps, and then eventually they stop having good comps. So just having something in the back of your mind, will help. So the other time saver thing that I try to do with women's clothing is have like charts and pre-things done. So like Chico's, I tend to sell a lot of Chico's, and I still don't have their sizing stuff completely memorized, especially when you get into like different sizes. I have like the core ones, the large, extra large, but everything else I don't. So I tend to use these a lot. And what I've done is I've just printed these out. I have a little folder and I use them every so often just to quickly look at them. So I have those, but I don't print everything out because if I did, it would be crazy because I do use a lot of sizing charts. So the other thing that I've done is I just I save just the charts. It's like I label this shoe size chart, but I have different stuff in here. So I'll save it. I'll save, different things in here that I need for different, and I'll of course label it. And this helps me just to have that right here on the quick access so I can quickly click it and know, what the sizes are and what they convert to. So that's really helped. And the tool that I really use a lot, and I don't know if you guys use it too, is my snipping tool. Do you guys use that? Yeah, me too. So I do a lot of snipping with my tool, and I save stuff, for that. And especially with clothing, I don't have anything here, do I? Nope. With clothing, and shoes, I tend to add those sizing charts with my listing because it helps a lot of customers realize where they are, what size they actually wear, and it reduces a lot of the INADs. So adding sometimes the charts, either shoe or clothing or whatever kind of chart in there, really does help. And it also helps you just in general when there is a dispute, because at least eBay or Poshmark know that you've added a reference, and so it's not easy. It's not a one and done. Oh, the sizing's off, and therefore it doesn't work. Like you have something in there that really helps you. So I do that too. And I wanted to look at a store. I'm sure you guys have heard of it. I was curious the other day, and I was looking at it. Linda's stuff. So, she does a lot of live selling, or her store, her whole company, because it's fairly large now. She does a lot of live selling. So I watched a few of them. I've never bought anything. I don't typically tend to gravitate to high-end stuff. I buy simple stuff, but I like to watch her just to get ideas of what's going on. And so I went to her store and I was looking at the soles. I was curious of the stuff, and something that stuck out to me that I didn't know about. Actually, I don't think these ones have it, or maybe go into it. So there's a program and you get a little check mark for it now. It's called, see it, Pre-Loved Partner. Have you guys heard of Pre-Loved Partner? I hadn't either. I hadn't heard about it. So it will show up on some of your listings. Let me find where she is. Maybe it's just on her new stuff. It has like a little thing at the top that says Pre-Loved Partner. And so I went over to Pre-Loved Partner. It has this little check at the top of her listings. And so it kind of, I'm assuming she ranks higher just because she has this, because it has a set of qualities that is associated with that. So she's got this set up. And I didn't look further. I'm curious to see who else can get into this. Because, you know, we want to try to rank as higher as often as we can. So let's see. It says they have strict.
I've noticed that Linda's stuff always shows across in a banner. Like she's paying for advertising. Does it have something to do with that, possibly?
I don't know. Let me see. I'm gonna scroll through here. It says
Well,
all
eBay's
items
promoting her too.
affected. I don't know. Let's see what one of the listings looks like, or what it looks like. So it has it up here at the top. But I guess it's something for us to do a little further research, because I would want that little thing at the top of my listings too. So here's another seller. Kind of large, but not as large as her. Huh. Something to consider. And then I was thinking about how large her store is and thinking about what that looks like. I know a lot of it's consignment, so I'm sure she doesn't buy a lot of this, but just looking at it, it's really large. So I'm thinking, well, how do smaller sellers compete with that, and what do we do? And I mean, the bottom line is just having a better offer, because some of her stuff is priced fairly well, but some of it, I'm sure she gets the higher price because of how established she is. So I was trying to just think of things of how to compete with something like that, because she does sell a lot of items. She currently has 150,000 items for sale. And I was curious as if she has all this, because she is consignment. So I looked in several of her listings and it looks like she does have a lot of it. She actually, it comes from the same city. So I'm assuming she has most of this in hand. But it's something for us to consider. I have not done consignment. I've never really liked the idea. However, though, she does sell a lot of high-end stuff. So I guess if there's enough profit in an item, it's something that we can consider as clothing sellers. Because clothing, it's all about your time and, you know, what the profit is in each individual item. And in a lot of ways, it's volume, because it's, even if you sell high-end or higher profit items, you're still battling the idea of how fast you can be, how many of those you can find, how many you can put up. It's not like a lot of people who sell like one-off stuff where they're flipping cars or something. Like it's a different industry, a different item. Excuse me. So trying to figure out how we can compete with that is something I always wanted to bring up and kind of see what you guys think and see how, if you have all ever experienced or gone through any consignment or thought about selling consignment. Go ahead, Stacia.
So I'll try to make this short. I had this run-in with this lady at the Goodwill. And then fast forward a year later, we are getting along. And she says, I don't sell on eBay. And I didn't believe her because she's literally, every time I go to any thrift store, she's there. And she was saying that she told me, I'm taking this stuff to this consignment store and they don't take men's. And I'm like, oh, and she was complaining that she wasn't getting a lot of money from them. And I'm like, you should shop for me. So we ended up meeting up and I don't do consignment because I've just heard so many horror stories, and I bought some things from her, and then she had some really good men's items, like super high end. And I'm like, I offered her like $20 a piece, and I like offended her. And then we were on text by that time, and she was like, no, thank you. My husband doesn't want to sell it for that. And I'm like, okay. So I gave it a minute, and I'm like, okay, I didn't want to do consignment, but I'll do consignment for those 5 items. And I made up an agreement and made her sign it, like all the things that I've been warned about. Like I set the price, I'm going to promote this. If it doesn't sell, I'm going to discount it. And I decide basically, and also if it's not in clean condition, I'll be getting it dry cleaned, and that will come out of your profit. And I did a 50-50 split. And in 1 week, I've sold 4 of the items out of 9, and I sent 2 to the Real. So I only have 3 things left. Like, it's gone really good. And they were really, really high-end things. So I'm going to wait to do the payout until after the 30-day window goes by. But maybe in a month or so, I could report out on how that went. But so far, it's really good. Until this crazy lady gives me problems.
You have a question, Melanie, or something to add?
Oh, no, thanks. I'm just listening.
Oh, okay. Yeah, consignment seems, like you said, you're doing well and they're high end, so it is something that could be worth your time. It seems sometimes like a lot of work, a lot of bookkeeping work to be added to, your whole model, which if that's something you want to do, you want to go that route, it looks like you can do it without it really, being a negative thing. I used to work.
Carrie already knows this answer. I'm like, my husband does all my bookkeeping, so it's no extra work for me.
That's good. I mean, that's
Yeah.
the thing. Like, if you have that extra department to do that, because I used to work for a big eBay store. They sold semiconductor equipment, and about half of what they sold was consignment. Like, it was consignment, and they did really well, but we had a lady who just completely focused on the consignment. Like, she had to calculate everything at the end of the month. She had to send their payments out, and it is that extra step to try to do it. But at the same time, the company was saving a lot of money and probably didn't have as much risk, because they weren't purchasing this equipment outright. It was just, if it sells. So there is some benefits to that. Does anybody have any questions or anything to add? Okay, so let's see what else. So the other thing that I have used, and I don't use it as often as I should, but it's come up fairly often recently, is the keywords everywhere. And let me actually, can you guys still see my screen? Let me see.
Yeah, we still see Linda's stuff.
Okay, so here is keywords everywhere. It is just a Chrome extension. And you can turn it on and off because you don't want to use your credits. So here are my credits that I have when I want to use it. So I'm going to turn it on just to kind of show you a little bit, give you some ideas on possibly getting the keywords that will give you the maximum amount of searches, basically, is what it's going to do. So I have to open another window once I start that in order for it to work. But so we'll kind of use the example. Okay, so women's boho dress. And so you'll see here where it has how many hits or searches that has. So it shows 3,600 a month is what people are searching for women's boho dresses. So let's try women's bohemian dresses. And so that is showing 590 searches a month. So it kind of gives you an idea of which word to use when you're trying to create a title. So boho would be the better option. The order of that still could be debatable. Like sometimes it might come up better if you do women's dress boho. And it doesn't, okay. Doesn't really look like a lot of people search that way. So it looks like they do search with the description boho before dress. So this kind of just gives you ideas of what to add into your titles and your keywords. So I'm gonna type in old money because I'm curious. Women's old money. It doesn't look like anybody's searching for women's old money, so that's interesting. What else? Do you guys have anything you want to search for or curious about?
Melanie, I had something just to add to what you were talking about as to what the order is to put some of the descriptive keywords in there. I'll leave something up for a few weeks, and if I really don't find that I'm getting the views on it that I think something deserves, I'll go in and move those, the order of the keywords around a little tiny bit just to see if it gets any more traction. I might change the price maybe a couple pennies or something just so that it sees like there's different things happening with the listing. And I can't say that definitely guarantees some kind of movement, but in the past I have sold some things by doing things like that and seeing that the order does change the algorithm a little tiny bit. So, double check and research your own items against what things are, the number of views they're getting and what you think. And you might be surprised that just ordering a couple things around might change something in the algorithm. So I would just suggest that.
Yeah, it's a good idea to test things, to move things around, to see what works for you. I mean, editing most listings usually gives you a little bit of a bump. So even changing it around might give you a bit of a bump, even if the previous keyword or the ordering that you had was getting you some views, you're more likely to get something else because you've edited it, you've refreshed it, and the algorithm tends to like that. Okay, so the other thing with the keywords is you have to remember to turn it off because it'll use up all your credits every time you do a search. I've done that a few times, so it's just something to know. But it does help just kind of knowing what to include in a title. I mean, in the description, you could probably add it all if you have the time. The other thing that I use, which I guess if you're going to be adding a lot of stuff into your descriptions, because it does take up time. And again, in clothing, it's a numbers game. It's about time. Like how much time do you have to do that? So something else that I started playing around with was, where is it? What is it called? It's called dashboard text plays. Does anybody use text plays? So
Right.
text plays is cool. I like it. I don't use it as often for a lot of things, but I use it on certain things very often. So like my offer message, this is what I send to customers when I send them an offer. I'll put this message in instead. I don't like the generic eBay one, so I'll put this in instead. And it's a short key here, but I also set that short key to my phone too. So I was able to set it up to my phone so I can set it and it automatically adds this whole thing in there. So that can be good whether you're doing offers or if you're writing a listing and you want to add some description. Because sometimes like I'll put, wedding guest, it's a dress that maybe would be good as a guest, but you don't want to include it as wedding because it's not actual for the wedding, it's wedding guest. So I'll put something like that. And I don't remember all these and you don't really have to. So when you're doing a listing, let me find it. And I wasn't going to show my store because I feel that when there are people looking at your store, it kind of kills you in the algorithm. But then I thought about it and my store is already there right now. So I can't get any worse for what I've done to my store. So we are here, but let me show you what I mean with you don't have to memorize everything with text plays. Okay, I don't even know. We'll do women's dress. And so if you're listing something when it comes to clothing and this particular dress has a certain style that you like, you can just right click and go to text plays and it'll show your sample one. So you don't have to memorize all the different, short codes that you would use for everything. But for example, let's say I wanted it was a boho dress. I could just add that in and it'll add a lot of different words to the description. And sometimes people do search, by description, they're looking for something, they can't find it. So they'll include the description in the searches on eBay. So it's just a quick, easy way to add something in there. So you don't have to, every time you list a boho dress, you have to write in everything. It's just a quick snippet, is what they call it. And you don't have to memorize them.
Yeah, text plays is a great one. There's a couple other ones that do the same thing, but I use text plays myself.
I think I saw you talk about it once, Russell. I think that's where I may have gotten it from.
Yeah, and it's a free Chrome extension. It only works on Chrome. It doesn't work on Firefox or nothing like that.
You're
But
right, it
can
does it.
work,
And I
yeah.
think on my phone, I set it up, it's through the Apple system is where I went to and I set it up. And I use the same short code for my offer message that I do on text plays that I use on my phone. So that one I could remember.
Yeah, I spent time working on a ChatGPT prompt for doing descriptions. And once I got that dialed into exactly what I wanted and how I wanted the formatting and all that, I copied the prompt and put it in my text plays. So now all I gotta do is hit a couple of quick keys and it puts my prompt in. And then copy paste my title and it spits out a description for my descriptions in seconds.
Yeah, it helps save more time because it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah,
It's
because you could
gonna save
set one up
time.
you could set one up for your item condition, because I have one that mine says like, your condition box. Mine says good overall condition dash money back guarantee with a couple exclamation points. And then if there's an issue with it, it says has issues dash see item or see photos and description dash money back guarantee. And I got those set up with two different hotkeys. So depending on what the item, if it's good, it gets one. If it's not, it gets the other one. But it just makes it really quick and simple doing the repetitive stuff over and over.
Yes, because it is repetitive. Lately I think sometimes not having enough time is a benefit because it makes us cut corners where we can, because we don't want to cut them to where we hurt ourselves. But like lately, I've just been, whatever my title is that I put for my my item, I've just been copying and pasting it down here and just delete. I just copy paste it, come over here and just delete it. I haven't been doing where I used to do it. I used to come down here, rewrite this stuff, and I realized that it really doesn't matter. That, you know, the nice format or whatever, it really doesn't matter for the people. Photos are the ones that really matter and sell stuff. I tried to get some photos today done so I could just kind of show you my process. My son is homesick today, and just in case he might come in here and interrupt, but he actually, give me a second. Let me go through the chat. Sorry, everybody in the chat. I haven't been paying attention to that.
Oh, you're okay. There's not a lot in there. I was looking at it.
Okay, okay, good. Sorry, I don't want to ignore anybody.
No. No,
Um,
show work asked how much it's worth or how much is text blaze, and I answered it's free. And I think that was the only question. The other was just comments.
Thank you for answering. Yeah, it is free, but you know, with anything free, it's probably taking some sort of my information somewhere. That's just kind of how it goes. I was going to just copy these crazy pants that I found and put them to just show. So I am not a very good student. So do as Carrie and everybody else tells you to do, not as I do or what I do, because I don't always do what everybody else does or says. So can you guys see my photos still?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's just my photos that I took. I used the photo room. I always do it for the first photo. It's a thing in my head when it's something busy like this, because it's a very busy item. So when people are scrolling as a customer, I just like to catch their attention and not have anything distracting it. But I did use just the one. And then I tried to add the measurements in my photos because I just recently had issues where a customer was disputing pant size in Poshmark actually. And I had the measurements in my photos, so it was an easy thing. Poshmark looked at it. She didn't send any photos with measurements because she couldn't dispute it. It wasn't, she was wrong. She just didn't want them anymore. And maybe they don't fit her, but they were in the photos. She should have looked at that. But it just helps, you know, when the INADs, when they do come around, just adding the measurements. And I know it's hard to add the measurements in. So I used to do it where I had like the measuring stick, and that's hard because you have to hold it and take photos with one hand and then hold it with the other. So I just started doing, because I have the foam background, I just started pinning stuff on the sides, and so it's not exact, but it kind of gives you an idea of what the measurement would be. So I started doing that for clothing because clothing shrinks. Sometimes it's not even made to size. Some brands do not align with other brands. So it just kind of helps the customer figure out if they want it or not. I always add it in the first photos because most customers are going to look for that measurement anyways. So I always add them. And depending on how many photos I need or I'm allowed, I'll usually just do this one because eBay can zoom in anyways. But I like to add the next one because it helps them just see it quicker, so it just helps the customer. Does anybody have any questions, ideas, or something they do differently with photos, measurements?
I follow the same pattern, kind of like you did. One thing I noticed when you dropped your photos in, they were all out of order. Just a quick tip on how you can make that a little smoother. I'm assuming you're grabbing those out of a file folder, correct?
Yes.
Grab the first picture you want. So like you want to grab your main picture with your mouse when you start dragging, because whatever one you click on and drag, that's the one it puts on the first spot, and then it puts everything in order behind it.
Okay, so if I just went the opposite direction, it would do it.
Yeah, so if you like delete all your photos right quick and then go back in and highlight them and then click your main photo and drag it to bring everything in, it should put everything in the right order.
Let's see. Let's see if this works. I just do shift to select everything.
Yep.
Yep, you're correct, Russell.
Yeah, I learned that the hard way too. Cause I would just, you know, click the top one, click the bottom one, grab them somewhere and pull it and drop. And every time I'd put everything back in the right order. And then finally somebody told me to grab the first picture. And when you grab the first picture, then it puts everything in order.
That's a good idea, good tip that I didn't realize. I usually just like you saw, I just rearrange stuff, so that's a good idea.
Grab whichever one's closest and go. Cause you just think it's a block. Yeah.
I learned
Maybe
that.
what I might start doing is start taking the measurement photos first so that it'll automatically be in that order.
What I do is I take the front photo like you have, the main, for pants or jeans. That's my photo. And the next photo is a close up of the waist area, the waist down through the inseam, like it was a pair of shorts. I just go into the top part because that's the part I want them to see. And then I do my measurement with the waist, the rise, the inseam, the leg opening. Then I flip the jeans over. I do the back close up of the butt, then a full back, and then done. And then if there's any issues, if there's a hole or fraying or anything, those go after that. Or I'm sorry, I do before I flip them, I do the front, the zoom in, the measurements, then the tags, then flip it, do the butt, the back, and that's the order I do mine. And then if there's any issues with it, those get photoed at the end. And then the last photo is after I put it in the bag and throw a SKU number on it, I take a quick SKU picture. I don't include it in my listings, but for me, when I'm doing 20, 30, 40, 50 pairs of denim in a row, it's very hard to see where the first one ends and the second one begins. But if I just, that SKU picture tells me that from this SKU one to that SKU, that's all one pair. From this one to that one's another pair. And then when I'm listing, as soon as I drag my photos and drop them and I start doing my title, I can look up, and if my last photo is the back of the jeans, there's no issues. If there's fraying or a picture of a hole or staining, then I know that it has issues. I need to put that in the listing. So
That is a good way to remember that it has a flaw.
Yeah.
I don't do that. I do the flaws go second. Like if it has a flaw, it's the very second photo because I want the customer to see it right away. So I rarely forget, but sometimes I do. But I think that's kind of why I like Vendu because it's my catch. Like if in Vendu, I'm like, this had a flaw, how come it doesn't show it? Because it is supposed to, it'll show up in my description also. If it has a flaw, I put it right down here. I put a few stars and I put whatever the flaw is plus up here so that there's no question. Especially since I cross post, I need to make sure the flaw is in there for like any other platform that I use. So that's a good way to remember it, to make sure you have the information about the flaw. Yeah. Well, any other questions or comments about photos? So I'm gonna kind of go into, I think I wrote down, let me see. Yeah, I'm gonna go into more of what not to do. So my store has taken such a huge hit lately because I thought that I was a cabinet painter and counter painter. So I completely have been focusing on that. My store took a big hit. But I mean, it's just how I live. I'm not the breadwinner. I have my husband, so it helps. I have that backup, which could be nice, but it could also be detrimental because it gives me that room to slack off. I think that had I had to do it, it might be a little different. I might have worked 24 hours straight to make sure I did my eBay store and the cabinets. I'll be right with you. So just to kind of show you my store, it has completely dipped. I mean, these were lucky, I think, because I think I was already doing cabinets here. So it's completely dipped, gone down. But I mean, I'm okay. And now I can do probably a whole, maybe I'll update you guys on my journey of trying to start my store, bring it back to life again, because I'm going to need to do that. I have all these eligible offers to send, so I'm probably going to have to take a little bit less profit just to get my store going again. So I would say something not to do is don't neglect your store, especially on eBay, because it will not be nice to you. You will have slowdowns of sales. I had that happen. Luckily, I had, so Vendu. So here's my Vendu. I did have Vendu, and again, this is something I do, just not something that people probably recommend, but I take things out. I delist things that are seasonal. So like a lot of my coats and heavy sweaters, I had delisted them probably at the start of the summer, and they were kind of just sitting in my Vendu for a while. So when I needed something to list, because I was working on cabinets, I just went through my Vendu, went through view not listed on eBay, and I was able just to list some things, and they're seasonal. And yes, they were sitting in my inventory, not listed on eBay, so people couldn't find them, but they were out of season. And it's kind of like my own version of a draft bank, because they were sitting there ready for me to list for when the weather starts chilling a little bit. I leave them on Poshmark because I don't get charged on Poshmark per item or anything. So I at least make sure they have eyes somewhere. So I did do that. That kind of helped for when I took a big break. Give me just 1 second. I'm gonna tend to my little boy for a moment. I do have a question though, so you guys can answer it in the chat or you can talk amongst each other. What was your favorite vacation and where did you go?
Don't everybody jump in at once. We all work too hard. Nobody takes vacation.
Mine was Colorado going to Pikes Peak. That was my favorite.
That's funny, Lynn. I went to Pikes Peak once many years ago, and I passed out in the t-shirt shop on top. And I woke, there's an EMT office up there. I woke up in the EMT's office with oxygen on my face, and I was told to go down and never come back up again. So that's probably my least favorite. I was gonna say mine was probably the a friend and I took a Mediterranean cruise. And actually I know it was 2001 because it was spring of 2001, not post 9/11. And we started in Greece and ended in we started in Athens and ended in Barcelona, Spain. That was probably the favorite. But I travel a lot, so it's hard to pick a favorite.
Thank you for sharing while I attended to my son. Okay, what was the work stuff? Oh, what not to do for reselling. So here's my Poshmark store. My Poshmark store is small. It comes second to eBay. I list everything on eBay first, and then I import it into Vendu, and whatever I have time for, I list on Poshmark. So that happens. What not to do is from what I'm learning with Poshmark is they're not as sensitive when it comes to delisting. I mean, not listing every day, but they do want to see some sort of activity. And so I do have the automated options, which is my Posher VA, but I think they still like you to go into the store and do something, because it did take a dip during the time where I didn't plan for my time away from the stores. So I think something not to do is don't plan a vacation or a big project before you plan what you're gonna do with your reselling, whether it's a draft bank or like me, I have to look at it as that's my vacation. If I had a regular job, I would have just taken it off. I probably would have gotten paid, but maybe not, depending on what kind of job I had, I guess. So that's just something to think about, what not to do on your store. Does anybody have any ideas for me or for other people? What is a good way to wake up your store again after not listing for 3 weeks?
I'm frequently in that category because I am right now, as a matter of fact, because I just got back from 10 days off. And the week before that, we were switching our chart system at work. And so basically I haven't listed hardly anything all month, maybe just 1 or 2 things. And for me, honestly, just getting back into the habit of listing eventually wakes it up. But I always feel like, it's funny, for eBay, I take orders while I'm gone. And like, I sold 18 things while I was gone, which isn't too bad for that period of time. But then I always feel like I'm punished for a week or 2 after. Like you ignored me for 3 weeks. Now I'm going to ignore you for at least a week. Type of thing. The other thing I do is I send off, I typically send 15% offers, and I try to up my offers to 20 or sometimes even 25% off to just kind of kickstart some sales. I discount a little deeper. Varying success.
Yeah.
You
I
just
do
pay
the same.
the price.
I'm gonna go through these options here that I have to send to offers, and I'm probably gonna take a big hit on it. But I factored those items in. Again, this is something that isn't popular or recommended, is I have lower end items where they may have been free, but I kind of have them in the store for this purpose. Like I can go through like this, pretty sure it was free. I'll probably turn around and just sell it for $7 just because I don't lose money, and it's also gonna wrap up my store again. So it'll just it'll help give me a boost, and I'm not actually losing any money.
I went on a vacation for like 7 days and shut everything off and didn't even do any sales. But when I came back, I just listed good items every day. I did the same amount every day. And my sales bounced right back. So that helps too.
Yeah.
Yes, that's my plan. I'm finishing up just touches on my cabinet stuff today. And so today and tomorrow, I'm just gonna list. Luckily I have like something I also do that probably people shouldn't do, is I save seasonal stuff. So like as I'm shopping, in the spring and summer for things that are selling, then if I find, because I will find cheap jeans or cheap sweaters or jackets, I'll buy them and save them in the pile of, if I have time to list them now, I will, but if not, they'll be perfect for when the winter comes, when the season comes. So like now I was gonna go into the garage and I saw a box of just jeans. So I have jeans that I've saved. So at least I have that right away. I don't have to worry about sourcing today or tomorrow. I'll have a good 40 pairs of jeans or so just to photo and get up quickly, and I probably will kind of spread them out, maybe 10 today, 10 tomorrow, 10 the next day, so that eBay won't freak out, because it does freak out if you do too much stuff at one time. It doesn't know how to read that. So I'll try to do that, kind of gradually move into it again. Does anybody have any questions about anything? We can do something on the computer, or any other questions about what I use, what I don't use, why I do, why I don't.
Yeah, Melanie, I was jumping in and out, so I don't know if this was mentioned or not. And you had said something like, well, I don't do what's normally recommended, or something about the photo room and other things that you do. you know, I think what's really unique about eBay is what people either really love or they really hate about it. And that's like, it's technically an online garage sale or yard sale. And every single store can be unique. And an awful lot of times when I'm scrolling through things and something will jump up at me, whether it's the vibe or something of it, if you can actually say that about a listing, and you go into somebody's store, like, Harry's store is really cool with the musical instruments and everything. And you get this whole vibe about the whole store and you want to go through and you want to look at it. And I think if you do take the time to make yourself a little bit unique, I mean, we all don't have to be the cookie cutter, this is the only way to do eBay and this is the only way that you're going to get sales. I think people are looking for unique things on eBay. Even though it is an awful lot of new with tag things, and it's how you present the things. And if you are consistent with what you're doing and it creates like this kind of standard for your store, I think that's perfectly fine. And I think it is what draws people in as repeat buyers. I mean, Carrie does a fantastic job of catering and to her customers and creating that whole buying experience to try to build repeat buyers. So I don't have a problem with people going against the norm and doing something that's unique for them. And if you find a strategy that works for you, that's terrific. I think it sets you apart and it makes your customers remember you. So yes, I understand the volume method and you can shave off seconds by doing things certain ways and everything, but that's fine for high volume sellers and to be, what does best. But if you find something that's working for you, I say do it. If you want to use your first picture for photo room because it's a busy piece of item or whatever it is, I say go for what works with you. And I think you're doing a great job. I mean, so many people that are in our group, I feel so lucky to be part of everybody because everybody brings a unique perspective and their own little spin on things. I think that's great. So keep doing what you're doing, I say. And Harry's store is wonderful. And so many of your guys' stores are just great and unique. And I love that about our group and other sellers that I see on eBay. So keep at it.
Thanks, Carolyn. I appreciate it. Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, eBay allows everybody to be very unique, have different unique items, different stores. Sometimes something works for one person that doesn't work for another. That kind of reminded me of something with Linda's store. Every piece of her clothing is on a mannequin, except I guess maybe for a few, but I was quite surprised because it takes time to put everything on a mannequin and off, and given the amount of stuff that they have, like I was quite surprised how much stuff was on a mannequin. So, but it works for her. She's getting it done. So like we said, it's different for everybody. But I think it's time for us to wrap up the call. Thank you everybody for being here, for participating. I appreciate you very much. And I'm going to figure out how to stop recording.
Great job, Melanie.
Yeah, thank you. A lot of good information.
You're welcome.
Is this your first call, Melanie? I'm coming back from
Yes.
vacation. This is Lisa, you guys. I don't know what the heck's going on with my name.